Hi, this is Ron again on the restoration of the 71 Kawasaki F5 Bighorn. I'm going to make a complete video. I'll just cut and paste it of start to finish on stripping and priming and painting and decals, clearing, because I think a lot of guys would really appreciate it. You know, you can send it out to somebody that specializes in it, and they're not cheap. And if it's a pearl color, a lot of the early Kawasaki's were pearl. The dirt bikes weren't though. And this is just the lime green. And you can actually do it with spray cans. What you need though is you need a good clear. I'm going to grab it right here. Spray Max 2K. This is automotive quality catalyzed urethane clear. They also have catalyzed two-part primer too. This is what you want to use. You don't want to use crap. And what you do is there's a little cap on the top here. When you're ready to use it, you'll puncture the bottom. You'll push the valve and you're releasing the activator into it. You shake it for 2 minutes and that's ready to go. And it'll last for like 24 hours. You can put it in the refrigerator and get a couple more days out of it, but I wouldn't push it more than 3 days. It's just, you don't want to activate it until you're all ready to clear all your bodywork. So, I'm going to zoom in here and show you why you really want to strip unless it's original paint in good shape. Okay, you can see the original lime green. So this tank, the decal is from a 72. The 72 had it was like the 72 Kawasaki H2. It's the same stripe pattern with the Kawasaki here. So I have a feeling that the 72 was the same as the 71 that had the tab, which I gotta make a new one because mine is gone. You watch my previous video, and I'll show how I make a tab and weld it on. You just want to make sure you don't have any fumes left in the tank. So what you want to strip this to bare metal is you don't know what this green paint is, this dark green paint. If it was just faded and scratched, the original paint, you could just sand it till it was nice and smooth and then use, like I said, the 2K makes a catalyzed primer filler. They actually make a catalyzed etching primer too. You want to use, well, let me start. Once you get it stripped, you want to clean it with a metal prep. It's like a mild acid, and you can actually wipe it. See, it takes like rust residue out of it, and then you don't want to touch it with your fingers after it. And then you want to use an etching primer. An etching primer has acid, and the acid will bite into the bare metal. It's got to be clean, but it'll bite in. The etching primer, you don't want to paint over it because it doesn't fill. All that is like a adhesive primer to your bare metal. Then after that, you want to scuff it with like a Scotch-Brite after it's dry, and then you're going to use your primer that's catalyzed, that's a filler. After if you've got any body work, as we go, if I've got any dents, I'll show you how you fix your density. So the reason why we want to strip this to bare metal is we don't know what this green, dark green paint is. And if we put some paint over it, it could lift and act like paint strip, or you got it all done, and then you can see remnants of the stripe even though it's not there anymore, a lot of times you'll still be able to see it. You want to take it all the way to bare metal, and you're not going to have any of those problems because you don't know what the primer is, what the green paint is, if it's going to react with what you're using now. And some of the old paints were non-catalyzed enamel, some of them were lacquers, especially the pearls. Those were all lacquers. So the safest thing it is to strip it. And what I do to strip it, I'm trying this clean strip stuff. I usually use, there's two types of aircraft paint remover. There's the old stuff that works really good and the new stuff that's environmentally friendly, but it doesn't work very good. So you want to get something that's aggressive, and when you use it, you want to have good ventilation. So when I start using this, I'm going to open the garage door because the stuff smells nasty. So before you put the stripper on, you want to take sandpaper, like 220 wet sand, and just put scratches in it, because what it does is it allows the stripper to bite in, and it just saves a lot of stripper, and it makes it work a lot faster. This stuff here, I have this feeling this dark green stuff is just going to blow off really quick. The original green stuff, that's probably going to be a little tougher, and usually the primer takes the most off. I'll just show you as we go how we do this. And before you do this, you want to make sure, or you can do it after, but before you do any primer, you want to make sure you're done with the inside. You need to etch it, clean it, or you could even use electrolysis where you put water in it and use a rod. You hang the rod without touching anything in the tank, and then you use 12 volts, I think it's with like 10 amps. I'm not sure the polarity, just check before you do it. I believe the tank is positive and your anode that goes in the tank will be negative, and what we'll do with electricity is the rust will actually leave the tank and go to the anode, and you have to keep an eye on it, because if you keep it on too long, it'll actually disintegrate your tank. It works that good. So if you have a tank that's got a lot of inside surface rust, electrolysis is what you really need to do. The chemicals really aren't going to get into all the pits where electrolysis, because it's using electricity in the rust, and actually inside part of your tank is going to go to the anode. If I do another tank in the future, you can find videos of people doing cleaning tanks with electrolysis. That's what you want to do if the inside of the tank's pretty bad. And what you may find is once you get all the rust out, the tank is junk because there's so many, it's so thin, or there's actually holes in it. This tank, I've got it pretty clean now. It was not too bad when it had surface rust, so I used a muriatic acid that I diluted, and then after that I used a concentrated vinegar, a lot stronger than you get in the store. I got it at Home Depot, and it's pretty powerful stuff, and I had that in there for a day. And sometimes you gotta do 2 or 3 different batches to get it clean, and then it's instantly gonna flash rust right after that. So what you need to do is, once it's nice and clean, you need to treat it with something like, a lot of times I'll just use WD-40. You gotta get something on the bare metal, or put a simple green in it. So anyway, back to the tank. And see, when somebody painted the green on here, they screwed up. When you put paint all the way up here, the fumes from your gas is going to make this lift up on the edge. From the factory, if you look at something that's original paint, they're going to stop before they get to the top. There's going to be a distinct line, and that's why, because if you bring the paint all the way up over the top, it's just going to come off. So before I do any priming, I'll tape and leave, you know, probably 1/8 of an inch from the top radius, and that way when it's all said and done, you're not going to be all upset because your paint already is peeling. So I've already sanded it. Before you even do anything, you want to get all the mud and dirt off of it. So you want to wear eye protection. I have glasses on. You want to wear decent latex gloves. You really don't want to put your gloves in it because these aren't going to be good enough, but they'll help. You don't want to splash it on your hands. It's best to have, like your wife has in the kitchen, the gloves that go halfway up your forearm, but I don't have any of these, and I'm just going to be careful. And if you're doing this and it's warm out, you got to be really careful when you open the stripper, because it'll pressurize, it'll pop, and it'll actually splatter your face. So it's not warm today, but I still will put my hand over it when I pop it with a screwdriver, because you don't want to get it in your eye or on your skin. So let me find a screwdriver. And you need to shake this stuff up because it settles and separates. And just get some cheap paint brushes. Move my oil tank out of the way. Yeah, this stuff smells nasty. Yeah, I'm gonna open the garage a little bit. This stuff doesn't like to work in the cold, and it's not too cold here today. I think it's in the mid-50s. But I've done this in the wintertime, and you're gonna have heat in the garage because it doesn't like to work. It works really good if it's like 80 degrees, but then the stuff, you've got to be careful because when you open it, it's gonna pop. And then you're just gonna try just to go one direction. And I learned a lot about paint stripping actually in the Air Force. It's called non-destructive inspection, and we would strip structure parts of the aircraft, and we used some simple, I wish we could buy, it was yellow, it was an epoxy paint remover. It was so strong, we would use it in our own personal cars if we're gonna do that. It was so strong it would strip the Bondo down to the bare metal if there was Bondo on your car. You can't buy stuff like that on the outside. I don't think they even have it anymore, but boy, that stuff worked good. And I'm only going to do a little at a time. Yeah, it's taking that, that's probably almost looks like a John Deere. The guy, the original owner, he painted all his stuff. he was a real fan of this John Deere green, I guess, which is a shame because I like the lime Kawasaki green. Yeah, that stuff stinks. So we grab the camera. Yeah, you can see that dark green's not very strong. It's not touching the lime green yet. And a lot of times you just got to take your time. If you got Scotch Brite, let me move it a little closer. If you got Scotch Brite, you can, between coats, you just got to be careful because it'll eat right through these gloves. You can clean it off with water and then dry it and do it again. And if you're careful, you can use like a paint stick and Scotch Brite. You just don't want to splash this stuff on you. The epoxy paint remover we used in the Air Force, you know, we had to wear a full face shield and safety glasses underneath, and we wore aprons and the gloves that came up to your elbow. But I remember one time I splashed a little bit on my arm, and I had a scar for like 5 years. That stuff, and I couldn't run to the wash basin fast enough to wash it off because instantly it'll eat your skin. You can see why they don't have that stuff on the outside, because it was really nasty stuff, but it sure did strip good. Yeah, that green stuff, dark green, is gone. It's taking it really easy. Yeah, whatever it is, it's not very rugged. It's a shame they put that over it. But I have a feeling something happened to the tank on this bike, because that's the wrong stripe. It's the right style tank, and I'm not sure if the 72 had the same. And you know, so I think in 73 they changed to getting away where it has the bracket at the back where it's actually bolted on to. They would have a double hook that bolts to the frame, and there was like a half U tab. It's on my gold 74, and a rubber. It was like a half-inch diameter rubber strap that would hold it on, and that's what they used. Okay, see what's happening now? It's starting to lift to green. It's going to be hard for it to focus that close up, but it's starting to, yeah, see, bare metal. Yeah, it saves you a lot of elbow grease. You could sand it, wet sand it to bare metal. That's a lot of work. Or you could use a DA if you got a compressor and a DA, which I don't have a compressor yet, and I'm going to try to avoid having to buy one. That's why I want to farm out the stuff that I can't do without a compressor. But if I find a really neat one, I've already wired my garage for 220 for my MIG welder, and I'm probably going to get a TIG welder too. So much for taking it easy when I'm retired, but I just really enjoy restoring old bikes. Yeah, this is working very good. Yeah, like I said, when you strip all the paint off, you're not going to have any compatibility problems, and especially when you spend the time and money. I mean, the decals aren't cheap, and the paint. I mean, even though I got spray cans, the clear is about $28 for every 12-ounce can, and the paint is. I ordered 3 cans, and it was like $22 a piece. Between the decals and the paint and the primer, you're going to have probably $2.25, $2.50, and you don't want to throw that away because you tried to cut corners and just sand and spray over what you got. So it's always better to do it right the first time. You always have time to do it right when you screw it up. So if you do it right the first time, it's the way to go. Yes, it's stripping some of it isn't touching. So I'm gonna let it sit for a while, clean it off, and scuff it again to break. Because when I scuffed it, all I did is I scuffed the dark green. I didn't scuff the So the only places where they strip it is where they were scratches all the way to bare metal, and it gave it a place to go underneath and lift it up. Okay, I'm gonna have to clean it off and then sand the lime green. It's not attacking the factory paint's a lot stronger than what somebody put on there. You can really see where the stripe was. And I think they originally used waterborne, so they put clear over everything, I believe. Yeah, that's definitely 72 decal. Roll the table around, you can really, oh, this isn't my rolling table. You can see that. Yeah, you can really see the old Kawasaki stripe on this side. Yep, you just painted right over it. Yeah, I can feel the decal. You want to get this on your car. And you get in the floor, you want your pets to lick it up. So I've done 3 rounds of the stripper, and you can see there's some of it that's still on there. It's not much, so what I'm going to do is I have an electric DA with 220 on it. I'm going to see how fast I can take most of it off, then do another round. And I can see there's places where the scratches are, there's corrosion, and that's why you want to use metal etch once it's the bare metal before you put your etching primer on it, because if you prime over the surface rust, it's just going to come through. So that's why I say when you strip it to bare metal, you want to prep it and do it right, and it's going to last a long time. So let's see what this 220 is going to do with the thin paint that's left. It almost looks like they didn't even use a primer. They may have baked it at the factory back then, because this stuff's sticking really good. That's why I say if you got a body set that's still original paint, you could get away with just sanding it really good. But if you've got surface rust, you really need to etch it, and that means you got to have it down to bare metal. Most of these, you're going to have scratches that are 60-year-old bikes. One thing I need to mention when you're using a DA, these tanks, because there's so much arch in it, you really wouldn't have a problem with warping it, but you don't want to stay in the same spot forever. You want to keep on moving, because if it heats up, it's going to move and it's going to warp. So this tank is super nice. I don't think there's really any dents in it at all. So you don't want to ruin it by trying to get one little spot out and staying in the same place. The next thing you know, you've got a high spot or a low spot. So this is 220. I'm going to see if I've got something a little coarser, like 120. It'll work a little faster. All I've got is 80 grit, and that's way too coarse, so I'm just going to have to keep on changing the paper because you'll fill the grit pretty quick. can see, it's almost completely stripped on the top. The edges I'll have to do with hand. If I had a compressor, I would use one of my little air tools with I forget what we call these pads. They were like a woven mesh, and you could get right in there to just do it instantly. So I'm probably going to end up buying a compressor because I want to do it faster. So I still got to strip the bottom, but I've got to sand it before I put more stripper on it. So as you can see, I finished stripping it. It looks good. I've got to do a little sanding on the bottom. There's a little bit left. That green really was on there good, the original paint, but there's absolutely no dents in the tank. It's not very often to work on a bike that's that old and it doesn't even have a ding. And strip the oil tank. So the next step will be to clean it with the metal prep. It's a spray, and it's like an etch, and you'll see when I wipe it off, it will have like a rust residue, and then we'll get it primed with a etching primer. My 2-part 2K primer surfacer isn't going to be here until I think Saturday. So I'm going to link all the bodywork videos together, like I said, and make it into one complete long video, but I'll just cut out all the extra stuff, and that way it'll be easy. Okay, thank you.